So we are coming together with the intention to really build a collaborative CD of sorts with artists from around the world that understand the necessity to implement additional tools beyond lyrics and music in order to imbue the music with sound frequency that can really take our understanding of what's happening to an entirely different level of resonance than we can do on our own. And so basically Jared and Will are working to step forward and bring an opportunity for people to really work on this. And I myself, I just happen to be an empowerment coach with an alternative approach that likes to sing sometimes and help people understand the journey home to our heart center. And so basically Jared and I were having a conversation and saying that warriors need to know how to recognize themselves. And we need to be able to see somebody and see who is willing to get seen, because there are a lot of people that want to keep their head below the parapet. And there are a lot of people that want to let someone else do the talking for them. And right now we're the ones that are raising our hands to say we're willing to talk and we're willing to be seen. And it's not because we're doing it for us, it's because we're doing it for the ones that will come from the ones that are watching us. And I really feel like right now we're at a turning point in history where we need to actually be willing to know what we stand for, or we risk falling for just anything. And as the artists, we are the creators. And I've been leading a 33 Days to Dream a New Dream Together series through my work, which isn't to promote what I'm doing, though if you want to check it out, would love for you to be able to be uplifted and inspired, because that's always my intention. And I haven't actually even been charging for any of it, because I just feel like right now we need our warriors strong more in terms of the hero's journey from a soulful perspective and how that relates to being an artist. Obviously, as an artist, we work with the child within, and a lot of people don't have access to that except for through us. And so we really need to understand that there is a level of responsibility that we have to have for our own selves and the child within, because it is what we fill the faith or fear with as to whether our cells are going to be faithful or fearful. And there is a fight happening within each of us at all times that is going to call us out of the home comfort zone of the known, where previously things have been familiar and everything's been decently okay. Even if it's not okay, at least we know semi what to trust. Because the hierarchy of needs, if you're familiar with Maslow's theory of we act based on survival at the foundation, safety, belonging, respect, and then self-actualization as the pinnacle experience, which we reach when we come back from the adventure that completely changed us in order to contribute the wisdom, which as artists, we're already doing. When we actually come in front of people, we're sharing the journey that we've been through. So this whole thing applies to everything you're doing in every stage of the process, both as the artist that pulls it together and then as the artist that delivers it too, because there's a different process in each of those as well that we have to really be mindful of. And then bringing it back, and I know I'm talking fast, but I figure we can all keep up, and then if we've got questions, then definitely slow me down and we can go back. But the point is that the child that I was speaking of that we work with as artists is actually the soul. So there is a lot more that can go with that. But as we're doing all of this, what we need to understand is that we're living in a world of people that are children in varying stages of development that really need a good hand holding back to their own hearts. And that's what we have a chance to do right now. We can guide them in a way that will actually take them in where they can play and let the responsible adult sit on the throne to make decisions responsibly, able to respond responsibly. So when we are going through this journey, we may start at home, but we also have to understand we end there too, because everything happens at home, because it's what we bring with us. And if we can actually help give people an inner rabbit hole, like what Maxwell Maltz talks about in psychocybernetics, then we can give them a place where they can go when there's trauma, drama, and victimization happening all around, and things could get really bad in the coming months. coming days, coming weeks, coming months, coming years. It could get really bad. And people are going to need the lighthouses that are willing to take a stand, which is why a meeting such as this is so significant. People need to know where to look, and we're the ones that have to be willing to keep ourselves strong, which is how we fill ourselves with faith, by coming into spaces like this, because it's not just about meeting the one. It's about realizing that we're all part of that. We all offer keys. We all have pieces of the puzzle that all of us are bringing together for us to finally be able to understand better the pieces that we had already discovered and how they fit together best. Because what we all hear is a call for more, the call for greatness, the call for goodness within our own heart, the soul that speaks to us and is at the end of the day, the voice of courage that says, I will try again tomorrow. That is the part that we are called to honor. Because when we honor that part in ourselves, we understand that every single one of us have made it through and survived 100% of our darkest days, which is what happens when we get down into the center of the journey that changes us. And basically, before we get there, we have to accept the call, which comes after we actually receive it. And the point of this is helping people understand and remember how to access their intuition, the teacher within, for them to be able to actually guide themselves, to trust themselves, not to get stuck in the veils, the masks, not getting stuck in pretending to believe somebody else's narrative because it's more convenient and it means that we can pay our bills another day. But for how long? As everything changes, for how long can we go along with the narrative without taking a stand and saying, no, we are the conscious co-creators that came here to do this. When we meet the one, the warrior within that is willing to say, what's happening is not okay, and we're taking a stand, and we're going to use what we have in our hearts to be able to change this world. That is when then we enter into the valley of transformation that takes us out of the home zone, the comfort zone of the known, and into the valley of transformation where we are no longer who we were, and yet we're not who we're becoming either. And we're in that uncomfortable phase in between where it feels really hopeless at times because we don't know whether we have the energy to endure the distance, and yet we can't go back, and we know that we don't fit there anymore either. Because the journey, even just to this point of making the decision to leave, changed us. And to leave empty-handed makes us feel like there's something wrong with us. But that's only because we've personalized things we needed to be able to figure out how to get through, which is by having connections to people who are also doing it that can say, we all have to just pick ourselves up, because the next no means there could be a yes right thereafter. And that's what we go through with the trials and tribulations after we have entered into the valley. And when we go through all of those, they stretch us to our brink, and our comfort zone is inside of the stretch zone. And that's the stretch or growth zone. And outside of that is what's called the terror barrier, where we all break it to the absolute limits of our panic, of our comfort or of our growth zone. And then we get into that space of terror, of knowing that there's no going back from here. And if we break through, then we actually experience change. And if we revert back, we break ourselves, because we go back into the cocoon that was only designed to house our caterpillar form, not the butterfly with wings. And we already grew those babies. So now we need to let them dry and actually give them air. And that's what happens when we go through first the dark night of the ego. Understanding that a victim always feels like they have to be rescued by the savior or the hero, and then have the damsel in distress be the victim that needed to be rescued from the punisher or the wicked stepmother or the villain character. And we're constantly on that victim triangle when we're being the knight that only has a role because there's a victim to save. But if there were no one to save, if there was no danger, then the knight wouldn't have a role, which is why it's the dark night of the ego.